everybody. I am Anja Annette, and welcome to Narrative Nights. So today I have a special guest with me, CJ.C. Boyd, and she's an author, she's a business coach, and she's just amazing. But what she really, really does well is mindset. So she's a mindset mentor too. And if you're having trouble with your mindset, she's someone you really need to get with by the end of this call. Okay. So tonight we're going to share a little bit of her story, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her and what inspired her to start publishing books. So please help me welcome CJ.C. Boyd. Hi, CJ.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I love what you do. So tell me a little bit more about why these books were instrumental, and because you're in more than one book, and we'll definitely have you again for another book. So tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to tell this story.
Well, what inspired me is I've always wanted to be a writer. When I was a little girl, I would sit down with pieces of paper and string and I would illustrate and write books because that was my escape from my life, what was going on in my childhood. And so I had these stacks of books that I like self-published as a kid, and it was always on my dream, yeah, my dream board, to be a published author. That was what I wanted to do. And when this opportunity came across my email, I was just like, oh, here's my opportunity. It's not like I have to go publish my own book. I can co-author a chapter in a book with other people and just be able to tell my story. And it was just so exciting because I was like, small town girls like us don't get big time opportunities like that to become a published author and just really follow our dreams. So I thought, what a better way to dive into that space and be able to do something that I did as a kid as an escape to actually like put my story out there and perhaps help another woman if she got the chance to read the book.
Okay, so what I want you to do, what Narrative Nights is about, is I think that literacy is in an all-time low, right? And I think that people are putting so much beauty out there in the world. So I really want to share some of that. So can you take a few moments and read some of your story? Like you can pick a section or you can start at the beginning, whatever feels comfortable for you. And what's the name of the book that you'll be reading from?
The book that I'm going to read from today is Unleash Her.
Okay. And
And my
your
chapter, I'm
chapter
sorry,
title. I was just going to ask you that. Sorry, I interrupted you.
it's all good. My chapter title is called Pull the Damn Ripcord. No one is coming to save you. And so I'm just going to read a few snippets. Children are to be seen and not heard. Don't speak unless spoken to. Do as I say, not as I do. Listen to authority figures and obey at all costs. It's no wonder I grew up scared shitless of anyone and everyone I crossed paths with. I had it ingrained in my head from young, like 2 or 3, to act accordingly, speak accordingly, and toe the line no matter what. I grew up idolizing the adults in my life because that was what I was trained to do, no matter what was happening around me. At home, I behaved appropriately and received the praise for being a good little girl. And at school, I was eager to please the teachers, learn the information, to regurgitate it for the tests. I wanted to receive compliments telling me how smart I was and that I did a great job, etc., proving my worth. Needless to say, I grew up believing that my worth and value were directly tied to how well I performed for the adults in my life. As I grew, I quickly realized that it's all for show. And the home life that I was experiencing was nothing like the roles we were playing on the outside. We were the perfect family. Mom stayed home and raised the kids. Dad worked a business, coached little league teams, and celebrated with weekly trips to the local diner for ice cream after the games. And from an outsider looking in, we had it all. Who wouldn't want that kind of life, right? At home, it was like Jekyll and Hyde. Dinner was to be hot and ready when he walked through the door. The kids were to be quiet and clean their plates. The wife was to be doting and meet all the needs of everyone in the household. When needs were not fulfilled and expectations not met, shards of Melmac plates flew like daggers through the room. Food was wasted, tempers flared, and chaos ensued. I remember thinking how I should be grateful that we had a mom who was home with us every day. We always had food to eat and clean clothes to wear. Let's bring up a lot of memories. Whew. And homework was always finished before dinner. We were lucky because we had a place to live, got to spend time with our grandparents, and had a mom that would do absolutely anything to ensure that we were taken care of. It wasn't until I grew up a little bit and started being allowed to spend the time at other kids' houses that I realized that we were far from normal. I remember lying in bed at night, listening to the yelling, the anger, and the fear in my mom's voice. I would rush I would rush to my bedroom to save her Sometimes by pretending I had to use the bathroom. He certainly wouldn't harm me in front of her, or he wouldn't harm her in front of me, or so I thought. I was allowed a few times, but he quickly tired of my interference and threatened that if I got out of bed just one more time, that I would be sorry. And there were plenty of times that I certainly was. So I would lay in my bed sobbing, afraid for my mom, angry at my dad, and praying desperately for him to leave. In my head, I thought it would solve everything. Finally, weeks later, he sped off into the night, leaving behind broken dreams, crushed spirits, and children who had to grow up way too soon in order to survive.
Okay, let's take a break there because
Whew.
this is very emotional. We could read a little bit more, maybe at the end where we get to the happy where you decided to change what's going on in your life. So I want to tell you that it takes a lot of courage to write about what you wrote about because a lot of times we feel like we are the only ones that are living those lives, right? And your story allows other people to really share those home lives, those listen to what you're told, children to be seen and not heard. That is heard globally in so many households, and we think we're alone. And your story gives people permission to really speak what's in their heart and share and not feel like they're alone in the world. And I think that is amazing. And um I was just writing a book and I figured it couldn't hurt me anymore because I thought I had gone through it, right? But you choking back those tears as you were remembering that hurt never really goes away. We just learn to put it in a beautiful different tapestry and a different design so that we can go on and be who we are and live to who we are meant to be, right? So I wrote a book from a child, and reading it now still brings tears to my eyes, right? So it doesn't go away. It helps us design our life and become the queen by design by putting that out there and really not caring um, what people see behind those walls anymore, right? So do you want to read a little bit of the ending?
I just want to say, it makes me realize like the courage to actually say it out loud because as kids we were never to talk about what was going on at home. Nobody knew until my parents got divorced and we were like the first family in town to get divorced and nobody knew from the outside. But once or so I thought, and then once when I grew older, people were like, we knew what was going on, but we were helpless. We couldn't do anything. And I think, being able to tell the story now in my own words, like it's cathartic, but I realized that I wasn't the only one who was going through that kind of stuff, that there was other people in my space that we were all doing the same thing. We were playing this game, like don't let anybody know because we don't want anybody to be that deep in our lives. So it just, I think for me, it's a thing of being able to get it out there in the world. But the part for me that's lane, as you said, that being a good writer is being able to suck people into your story to have them feel like they're there. And when I'm reading, I know it brings me emotion because I've experienced it and it's making me remember. But I want women when they read this to be like, oh my God, she's telling my story. And okay, it's okay. We went through it. We overcame. We can choose to do something different. And that's what I want for people to land. Not the emotion, not the what was me, feel sorry for me. This happened to me as a kid, but the I went through this and it didn't kill me. And I'm a stronger person for it. And I can go out and I can tell my story. And that's what made me who I am today, part of this story.
These stories inspire hope because so many people think that their lives are different, and the situation and the circumstance may always be different, right? But those feelings and that hurt and that pain and that resilience to overcome is part of the human spirit. So even though the situation may be very different and the person might be different, and maybe even the characters in that play of life, right? But we all go through those feelings, and we do all feel very isolated and alone, and think that it only happens to us. And I don't know why we all feel that way, but it's a big part of growing up in this age and the era when we were children,
Yeah.
right? we weren't taught to just be happy. We were taught to follow the crowd. If you do this, this will happen. So do it now, right? So,
Exactly.
and unfortunately, we that generation grew up very hurt and very confused, and we're all just now saying, "I'm my best self," right?
Exactly.
Right. So I think that's very freeing. So do me a favor, read a little bit of the ending for me so that people
All
can
right.
get an idea. Well, maybe
Well,
not
I
the
just
maybe they
opened
gotta hold on for the ending.
I opened the page and the chat the paragraph that came up and said my saving grace was books. When I was reading, I was transformed into another person, a character that had it all. I escaped by writing, creating epic stories and adventures that always had a happily ever after ending, where the main character was always rescued by someone else. Little did I know the patterns of my childhood were molding me into more of the same patterns, and I was feeding right into them. A knight in shining armor did show up, swept me off my feet, and promised that he was saving me and would ride off into the sunset. So desperate to be accepted and loved, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And it took me a couple years to realize that I'd found someone that was just like my dad. I had put myself into a marriage that was no different than what I endured living with my parents, controlling anger, arguments, and alcohol. So I'm going to stop there, but then I'll read just the very ending. The more we take personal accountability for our actions, our behaviors, and our choices, the more we feel empowered. Owning all the parts of our lives is the scariest thing we will ever have to do, but in doing so, we unearth a deep burning desire for more. It's like that tiny little ember left over after a fire is snuffed out, that if given just a tiny breath of air, will flare up, gain strength, and grow into a raging wildfire. It's a power that cannot be smothered unless you stop breathing life into it. And once you taste that power, you thirst for more.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So, audience, this has been CJC Boyd, and what we're going to do is we're going to leave you a link to a page underneath this video. You will be able to find that where you can actually have a signed copy from CJC Boyd. Right? How does that
Thank you.
sound, CJ?
It sounds great. And I just appreciate being able to get visibility to this book because there are a lot of women's stories in this book that, have been through some stuff. And when I read other people's stories, that I think, oh, you didn't have it that bad, So it's kind of like that camaraderie of we can all band together, we can help heal one another, and we can do that through our words.
I agree. And you'll be surprised because a lot of those authors will be appearing here as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's session of Narrative Rights. Keep reading and keep dreaming. Have a great day.